All right, so I have a question. So the song that we just sang says, "Awake, arise, O Church of God." What does it mean to be woke? Um, any thoughts on that? So in the dictionary, for many years, woke was simply the past tense of wake, to be woke, wake up, and anyway, there's a huge difference in how that term is being used. In fact, Google Trends, if you're familiar with that, they track how there's interest in certain words. This is the word woke over time. Since Google has been doing this, I think this goes to about 2004 to the present. And in fact, in 2017, the Merriam-Webster dictionary added a new meaning to the dictionary for the word woke. And Merriam-Webster now says that another definition is to be aware of and actively attentive to important facts and issues, especially issues of racial and social justice. So another thing that Google does is they have Google Books, which they take books from hundreds of years and millions of books, I guess. I'm not sure. And they scan all these old books in, and then they can track word usage over time. And so this is actually a chart, if you can see it from there, that goes back to around the year 1800, and they can track how the word woke was used even in books all the way back to 1800. So I think that's pretty interesting. And if you can see it from back there, there's a huge increase in the usage of the word woke. So I mentioned the Webster Dictionary. There's another dictionary.com that says that it means aware, knowledgeable about your community and the world, with a willingness to assess and critique systems of oppression. So most definitions, and I've seen a number of them, refer in some way to awareness of prejudices that is not recognized by the general society. So none of us want to be prejudiced. I think we'd all want to be woke, for sure, in that sense. And if anybody were to ask you, do you want to know the real story about something, we would all say yes, we want to know the real story. And so this meaning of being woke is something that's embraced by people all over. And you can get shirts that kind of copying something off of Coke, I believe it is, with the collars and font. But anyway, so people want to be woke. They want to be. Nobody says, no, I don't want to be woke. I want to be sleeping. Nobody would say that. Hello, I'm woke, right? So this is a sentiment that people want to identify with. So it's interesting how different people use that term woke. So when you think about the word woke and you think about politics, would you say that the word woke is something that would be used more so by the political left or by the political right? Anybody?
The left.
Okay, the left. And so part of that might be because I think it was actually the BLM, the Black Lives Matter movement, that kind of popularized it again in modern times. It wasn't the first time that it was used in that way. There's a book from, I think it's 1867, that first used that word woke in the same sense that it's being used today, and then it's been around, but recently the Black Lives Matter really popularized it. However, the right wing also uses it, and I think it's dictionary.com or one of these definitions. You know how they give example usages of words, and one of the example usages was the moon landing was staged. Stay woke. So that would be something that would be an example more so from the right, not the left, because I think it would be the right who would more so agree with that statement. So everyone wants to be woke. I think that's fair to say, and people want others to be woke as well. When I was thinking about what song to sing, I just looked in the index of the songbook, and there's 5 songs in our songbook where the first word is awake. And I find that interesting. So the Bible talks about being woke or wakefulness in a few different ways. One is in referring to sleeping and as being comparable to slothfulness. Proverbs has, like a lot of these, Proverbs 20, it says, "Love not sleep, lest you come to poverty." And Proverbs 6, where it talks about the ant, it says, "How long will you lie there, O sluggard? When will you arise from your sleep?" Proverbs 26 says, "As the door turns on its hinges, so does the sluggard on his bed." And a few more from Proverbs as well. It's interesting that when Jonah was in the ship and he was in the middle of the storm there, the people came to him and they said to him, "What do you mean, you sleeper? Arise and call to your God." So anyway, that's just a few things in reference to slothfulness. Being awoke, is also used in the Bible to refer to death. And Jesus said to his disciples that our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I go to awaken him. And there's a number of places, Old and New Testament, where you have the same kinds of usages. We have it even in eschatology. We shall not all sleep, in 1 Corinthians 15. And Isaiah 26, it says, "You who dwell in the dust, awake and sing for joy." It's talking about a resurrection. So there's another usage that I'd like to look at, which is the main focus here, referring to awareness or alertness. And many of you are familiar with the Pilgrim's Progress. And in the Pilgrim's Progress, there's this one scene that I often think about, where they were, this was Christian and faithful, were traveling to the celestial city, and they had met the shepherds, and the shepherds told them that they need to be careful because they're going to come to a land that is called the Enchanted Ground. And when they come to the Enchanted Ground, they're just going to want to fall asleep. There's something about the air in this Enchanted Ground that when they get there, they're just going to want to sleep. And so anyway, Faithful and Christian continue on their journey. And as they're walking along, after a while, Faithful says, I'd just like to take a nap. And Christian identified what was happening. And here's actually a picture of the two of them. The one man here who is kind of lounging, sitting down there, that's Faithful. And Christian is there like exhorting him, like, you got to stay awake. And it was really, really important why they need to stay awake. So any of you who remember the story, can you tell me why it was important that they stay awake? Why can't they take a nap? Yes?
Because if they slept, they wouldn't wake up.
Exactly right. If they slept, they would not wake up. So it was really, really important. And I'm going to read from the Pilgrim's Progress here just a few lines. And this is in, if you want to look it up sometime, Pilgrim's Progress is huge, but it's called The Enchanted Ground, so it's very easy to find. Okay, so the writer here says, "I saw then in my dream," this is John Bunyan, "that they went till they came into a certain country whose air naturally tended to make one drowsy if he came a stranger into it. And here Hopeful," I'm sorry, I was calling him Faithful. This was actually when it was Hopeful, not Faithful. "Hopeful began to feel dull and heavy of sleep. Wherefore he said unto Christian, I do now begin to grow so drowsy that I can scarcely hold up mine eyes. Let us lie down here and take a nap. And Christian said, By no means, lest sleeping we never awake more. And Hopeful said, Why, my brother, sleep is sweet to the laboring man. We may be refreshed if we take a nap. And Christian said, Do you not remember one of the shepherds bade us beware of the enchanted ground? He meant by that we should be aware of sleeping. Wherefore let us not sleep as do others, but let us watch and be sober. Quoting there from 1 Thessalonians 5:6. And then Hope said, I acknowledge myself in a fault, and had I been here alone, I had by sleeping run the danger of death. I see it is true that the wise man saith, 2 are better than 1, quoting from Ecclesiastes. Then Christian responded, Now said Christian, to prevent drowsiness in this place, let us fall into good discourse. And so they said, in other words, we're tired here. We don't want to sleep. It's very dangerous to sleep. If we sleep, we might never awake again. But to prevent that from happening, he said, we need to be talking. We need to be encouraging each other to stay awake. Because if they didn't, that would be their demise. That's where they would die. So just a few words from the scripture. These are not in any particular order. Words about staying awake. In Judges, there's one in the prophecy of Deborah, where it says, "Awake, awake, Deborah, awake, awake, break out into song. Arise, Barak, lead away your captives." The Psalms has many of them. I'm not going to read nearly all the ones that I have here. "Awake, my glory, awake, O harp and lyre, I will awake the dawn." I already talked about some of the ones from Proverbs. In Isaiah, "Awake, awake, put on your strength, O Zion, put on your beautiful garments." Another one from Isaiah, wake yourself, stand up, O Jerusalem." In Matthew, Jesus told the account of the 10 maidens, the 10 virgins, and it says in there that as the bridegroom was delayed, they all became drowsy and slept. And so I could just read a whole bunch of verses here, and I'm not really providing any context or anything, but just to make the point that this is a common theme in Scripture. Ephesians says, "Awake, O sleeper, and arise from the dead, and Christ shall give you light." Thessalonians says, "Let us keep awake and be sober." In Revelation 3, the letter to one of the churches says, "Wake up and strengthen what remains and is about to die." 1 Corinthians 15 says, "Wake up from your drunken stupor." And anyway, there's lots of these. Be sober-minded, be watchful. 1 Thessalonians 5 says, "Let us not sleep as do others. Let us keep awake and be sober. Those that sleep, sleep in the night, and those who get drunk are drunk in the night. But since we belong to the day, let us be sober." So it's also interesting that it's possible to be awake, to be woke, to things that are useless. And there's an interesting verse in Habakkuk. You don't need to turn there. But it's actually a warning to the wicked people and to these people who are stooped in idolatry. And it says that one of the things that these people who have these idols are going to say to their idols is they're going to look at their idols that are made out of stone or wood or whatever, and they're going to say to the idol, "Arise and teach us." Here's actually the text, Habakkuk 2:19. "Woe to him who says to a wooden thing, 'Awake,' or to a silent stone, 'Arise.' Can this teach? Behold, it is overlaid with gold and silver, and there's no breath in it at all." So I think that it simply illustrates that we can be woke, or we can expect people to awake to things that are useless. And so I think that it's important that we be awake, but be awake to things that matter. Be awake to things that are eternal and things that are going to save us in the end. So I'd like to open it up for some thoughts about how to stay awake. The one example that I gave there from the Pilgrim's Progress, it says that Christian says we can stay awake by encouraging each other. Like people talk about this when they're driving. They're like, "Hey, I'm driving here. It's middle of the night. Maybe we can talk. To try to keep me awake." And I think that's illustrates well how it can be in our spiritual lives, that we need to be talking and staying awake in that manner. But I would like to open it up for any thoughts that anyone has on how we can stay awake in our spiritual lives, so as to not be overtaken and not awaken again. Any thoughts on that? In Hebrews 3, there's a verse, "Beware, brethren, lest there be in any of you an evil heart of unbelief in departing from the living God. but exhort one another daily while it is called today, lest any of you be hardened through the deceitfulness of sin. Probably along the same lines, and also along the same lines as what I mentioned about Pilgrim's Progress there. Okay, thank you for your thoughts there. Maybe we can stand together for a word of prayer.